I hope you don't think I'm nuts for asking, but what's the deal with the baby, Bulma?
Is he your son, Yamcha? I'll bet he is.
He's not my kid.
Yamcha and Bulma, a couple that featured the world's richest, most brilliant, and ageless woman with the world's biggest Dragon Ball meme. In the beginning, their love had hope. In the end, Yamcha got left behind. But what if Bulma and Yamcha stayed together? This would not only cut Vegeta out the picture, but it would definitely impact the genetics of Trunks and would alter multiple timelines. Starting off in the future timeline, Goku would still get the heart virus. Then, the androids would proceed in killing all of Earth's forces including Yamcha and Vegeta. This now creates a huge question. Before Yamcha's death, would he and Bulma have had a child? If they did, just imagine Trunks being born to Yamcha's genetics instead of Vegeta's. He wouldn't be able to turn Super Saiyan, and he would stand no chance of defeating Frieza or King Cold. And if future Gohan knows for sure that Trunks would never have the power to stop the androids, he would only train himself, therefore making him even weaker than the original future Gohan that lost to the androids. And with his do or die mentality, this would eventually lead to him being killed. In contrast to Gohan, Bulma would raise Trunks to be much more of a tech junkie like herself. So as far as fighting's concerned, it makes sense for him to only have a basic fighting ability. So with Gohan dead, Trunks would go back in time to save history. With Frieza and King Cold being too powerful, he would travel back in time right after Goku had already killed them. It is at this point that he would give Goku heart virus medicine and warn him about the future. The only difference would be that Trunks wouldn't test Goku's power the same way that the original future Trunks did. So 3 years would pass and Dr. Gero and Android 19 would eventually attack. When the battle begins, Goku would eventually succumb to the heart virus. A stronger Vegeta would then kill Android 19 after Goku got sick, which would then put pressure on Dr. Gero to retreat. This now leads us to Trunks. He would still show up to check on the battle even if he has no plans to fight. But since he isn't a fighter, he wouldn't be able to move as fast as the original future Trunks did. And this minor detail is extremely important because Trunks originally came right as Piccolo was about to kill Dr. Gero, and Dr. Gero used Trunks as a distraction to escape. So if Trunks is late, Dr. Gero ends up dead. And if Gero is dead, the androids don't get released. But this is also bad news because Trunks wouldn't have a direct method of stopping his future androids. But Bulma has a huge impact on all of this. Remember, Bulma was involved in watching the fight against Dr. Gero, and after the battle, she would feel safe exploring Dr. Gero's lab since he would be dead. So our heroes would find themselves using the Dragon Balls to locate Gero's lab and eventually traveling there. But there's one problem in all of this, one problem that makes everything go south, and this problem is Saiyan pride. After Goku came home from Yardrat, Vegeta objected Bulma's plan to locate Dr. Gero's lab.
Okay, I see you choosing the hard way.
And because of this, he and Goku chose to train and fight the androids instead. Now let's take a moment and think like Vegeta. You are Vegeta. You found out that you were going to die in 3 years by the androids, so you spent 3 years training to not only pass your rival, but also to fight against them. During this process, you managed to learn the Super Saiyan transformation, the one thing your ego has been dreaming of doing. After achieving this, you discover that androids 19 and 20 weren't much of a challenge, but you need to prove your ego's worth. Goku is sick, and you want to fight these androids, so if you're Vegeta, what do? Well, if you're Vegeta, you go to Dr. Gero's lab and you activate the androids right in front of your friends. Since you're the strongest, no one can stop you. You're Vegeta. So when you factor in that Vegeta not only knocked down Dr. Gero's door, but he was the one that picked the fight with the androids originally, this is totally in character for Vegeta to do something like this. And with our heroes being forced to fight the androids, one thing is clear. 16's influence changes everything. So after 17 and 18 defeat our friends, Goku is once again in trouble. But the good news is that the altered timeline androids are not as evil as the future ones, so they wouldn't kill our heroes. Now, after Goku recovers from the heart virus, he would be angry that Vegeta activated the androids, but would still understand his importance and would still recruit Vegeta to train in the Room of Spirit and Time. This all means that Vegeta would go into the Room of Spirit and Time first, but without Trunks. But for Piccolo, this would motivate him into fusing with Kami. While Vegeta is training, the androids would have been looking for Goku. At some point, they would have arrived at Roshi's house where they would be greeted by Piccolo. This would all lead to a battle between Piccolo and 17. The only difference is that there is no Cell chasing after them. And to give you guys a little secret, Cell never travels back to this timeline, so there would be no Cell in this situation. And you will find out why very soon. And this fight would continue up until the point where Piccolo would start to lose. This is due to the fact that since Piccolo and 17 are around the same in strength, if Piccolo tires over time and 17 stays consistent, Piccolo is bound to lose. But just as he is about to lose, Goku would use instant transmission and teleport to save Piccolo's life. Goku would tell them to wait for a day, and if we know anything about the juvenile personalities of 17 and 18, they would definitely wait. On the other hand, with a new and improved Vegeta, the androids are in a lot of trouble. He would kill 16, 17, and 18. After this, with no Cell being around and the androids also being dead, the android threat would be resolved. Now, after Goku and Gohan emerged from the Room of Spirit and Time, Trunks would ask Goku and Gohan to help save his future from the androids, and for the short term, Trunks' future would be safe. On a side note, let's not forget that because Piccolo and Kami would have fused, Dende would have been brought to Earth to be the new Guardian. But the time is now. We must explain why Cell never travels back in time. Well, in order to understand this, we must first explain basic time travel. Before Dragon Ball Super, there were originally 4 major Dragon Ball timelines. In sequential order, the first timeline was the Cell timeline. This was then followed by the Unseen timeline, which then led into the History of Trunks timeline, and then what we have as the main timeline. And for those of you who are wondering about the Unseen timeline was the timeline that the first future Trunks went to that we never got a chance to see. All we know about it is that he got the deactivation device and somehow killed the androids of his future, which ultimately led to Cell killing him. So the reason why Cell never travels back in time is because our What If only has the first 2 timelines. The original timeline, which is Cell's timeline, and what would have been known as the Unseen timeline. And these other 2 timelines don't exist because this version of future Trunks asked his friends to help kill the androids. Because he asked his friends to kill the androids, he would have had no reason to visit them afterward the way the first future Trunks did. And as a result of this, Cell wouldn't have the ability to hijack Trunks' time machine and make more timelines. Now, this doesn't mean that Cell doesn't exist, because he would still grow as a fetus in Dr. Gero's lab, but the threat of him traveling back in time and becoming perfect is impossible. But now we will transition onto the Majin Buu arc. Goku would have never died, so he would still be around on Earth. This means Goten is also born and Gohan would go to high school. This is of course because Chi-Chi only wanted Gohan to train during the Android arc, and after this he would focus on his studies. So for Gohan, going to high school and becoming the Great Saiyaman would still occur. The only difference is that Mr. Satan wouldn't be as popular since he wouldn't have gotten credit for killing Cell. But due to Mr. Satan still being a celebrity, the connection between Gohan and Videl would still happen. In fact, because Goku is alive, Videl would be even more inclined to visit Gohan's house to know who he is and where his family comes from. Also, when you factor in the prize money available, Chi-Chi would get her entire family to participate in this world tournament. But one key difference is Goten and Trunks. Because Trunks would be the son of Yamcha instead of Vegeta, Trunks would be a lot weaker and Goten would run away with the Junior Division tournament. And since Yamcha and Bulma would be together, Vegeta would be isolated from everybody else, so he would be absent from the tournament. And since Marin wouldn't be born, Krillin would be less motivated to make money and move off of Roshi's island, so he wouldn't participate as well. But as far as Piccolo's concerned, it makes sense for him to participate in the tournament because Goku and Gohan would be there. So the tournament is now underway. This time the Supreme Kai would freeze Goku instead of Gohan. This is because this Goku would be a lot stronger than Gohan in this case, and this Gohan would have never have unlocked Super Saiyan 2. Once Goku's energy is stolen, Spopovich and Yamu would be tracked down by a 5-man team that would feature Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Kibito, and the Supreme Kai. And these characters would be more than enough to stop Babidi. Without training in the afterlife, it would be nearly impossible for Goku to learn Super Saiyan 3 because of the fact that the afterlife allowed him to push his body further. On the other hand, 7 years of training is more than enough time for Goku to at least learn Super Saiyan 2. And when you factor in that Dabura was around the strength of Cell, Goku, Gohan, and Piccolo would be more than enough to take Babidi down. But the good news doesn't stop here. With Vegeta being absent, this also eliminates the possibility of Majin Vegeta, so the Buu arc ends on a positive note with Babidi not getting the energy to release Buu. But let's now take a trip to Dragon Ball Super. With Trunks being 100% human and Vegeta isolating himself, we would be down 2 Saiyans. This means that the Super Saiyan God ritual would be impossible. And because Majin Buu wouldn't be there to anger Beerus, Earth wouldn't have gotten blown up by Beerus if he did happen to take a trip to Earth. Now, Resurrection of F can go in 2 ways. If Frieza is somehow revived and is much stronger than Goku and friends, everyone is dead. However, if Frieza isn't revived, then this isn't a problem. As for the Universe 6 tournament, with Goku and Vegeta in little contact, and with Whis and Beerus not as interested in the Earth, this arc doesn't happen. Now the Zamasu arc is 100% impossible to happen. Beerus and Whis were a part of the events that led to Goku meeting Zamasu, so without them, Goku Black can't exist because Goku has to have a reason to meet Zamasu for Goku Black to exist. This is all because Zamasu meeting Goku intensified his hatred of the mortals, so we don't have to worry about this. And as for the Tournament of Power, we get another ultimatum situation. Because our heroes never met Zeno, there would be no tournament. But at the same time, this also means that Zeno can just choose to wipe out all universes if he feels like it. And if that happened, then this ends in a negative outcome. If not, everything's positive. But what about Dragon Ball Super Broly? Well, if Frieza is never revived, then Broly would spend the rest of his life on Vampa with Paragus. If Frieza was revived, then the entire Earth would already have been blown up by Frieza in the Resurrection of F arc, so Broly is essentially irrelevant because our heroes would already be dead. But what about the social impact of these characters? Vegeta would have less character development, no kids, no wife, and would still possibly be a virgin. Yamcha would be the father of Trunks, but would be irrelevant, and would have small impact on the plot. Now, if Bulma stayed with Yamcha, the biggest difference is how she would raise her sons. The future Bulma, as of course, would raise her son to be a lot more science-like, whereas the present version of Trunks would be a lot more of a spoiled brat, because he would have lived in a more peaceful time. Now, it is still possible that Bulma could have given birth to Bra, but this Bra would have been a pure human. As for Goku, in terms of power, he would be a lot weaker without Vegeta's influence, and his rivalry with Vegeta as a whole wouldn't be as intense as we originally saw. And we would have never have seen a fusion between Goku and Vegeta in the form of Gogeta or Vegito. Gohan would have had a lot less character development maturing in battles against Cell, and Gohan would never have had his potential unlocked by the Elder Kai, since the Elder Kai would still be in the Z-Sword. However, Goten would actually change drastically in this scenario because his best friend wouldn't have really been his best friend. Remember, it's the Saiyan hybrid bond that Goten and Trunks had that helped them grow such a strong friendship. Keep in mind that Goten would never have a chance to learn fusion as well. So for a final outcome, this what if scenario would be good for the present timeline of Dragon Ball Z, it would be good for Dragon Ball Super if the threat of Zeno wiping out everybody and Frieza blowing up Earth never happens. But as you would have guessed, this would be terrible for the future timeline. Just look back at how Babidi and Dabura showed up to Earth and Trunks had to stop them. A weaker Trunks makes the future less defended, so we can safely say that Trunks should thank Vegeta for giving him his genetics, because without him, the Dragon Ball universe would be a totally different place. But since we talked about time travel a lot today, you're definitely going to want to check out my alternate timeline theory that goes deeper into these different timelines. In addition, you're also going to want to hear 5 smarter ways to stop the future androids, or what if Trunks and Mai stayed in the present timeline. And until next time, stay cool and stay safe, my friends.